Hey, Rhonda,
Yep.
no sense in doing introductions if there's no kids on the line. So,
I welcome everybody.
okay.
Good morning and welcome to the 100 Black Men of Las Vegas's Youth Economic Empowerment Club, class number 2 for high school students. Thank you all for joining us today. I'd like to introduce to you the 100 Black Men of Las Vegas team and our CFO of the organization, Mr. Daryl Rayford. And we also have from the Wells Fargo team, Ms. Fienza and Mr. Nelson. Mr. Rayford, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, Rhonda?
I'm super fantastic. Wells Fargo team, how are you doing?
I'm doing amazing on this Saturday morning.
Doing awesome. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. Daryl, give us some words of wisdom.
Hey, I just appreciate everybody coming here on a Saturday. I'm looking forward to the team of Wells Fargo imparting some knowledge on us. And when I listen to these experts, even though I am in the finance area, I always learn something on a given weekend. So take a lot of notes. Again, the only thing I ask you to do is chit chat with your parents and your friends, because the best way to learn is to repeat. So I thank you, and back to you, Rhonda.
Okay, Ms. Tanga, would you like to introduce our speakers for today?
Yeah, so today we have Alexander Nelson. He is in the small business banking side of Wells Fargo Advisors. And I'm gonna let him go ahead and tell you all about his background and a little bit more about himself. Go ahead, Alex.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Alexander Nelson, and I currently work as the Small Business Banking Relationship Manager here in Las Vegas, located on the Spring Mountain and Arville location in Chinatown. I have been in the banking industry for 15 years, and of those 15 years, 7 have been spent at Wells Fargo as a business relationship manager. I started my journey in banking at the age of 17. I was a senior in high school. I was working a part-time teller at Bank of America at that time, and advanced my career. And I really was interested in doing more for the small business community here in Las Vegas. So there was an opportunity for me to transition over to Wells Fargo. And I have just had the best time with being able to really serve the community in the small business aspect, being very active in the community by running different classes and courses. Yeah, that's really about me.
All right, thank you. And then just a little bit about myself. So as Ms. Rhonda said, my name is Fineza Tangwa, and I've been with Wells Fargo almost 15 years. I am the branch manager of the Henderson and the Summerlin Las Vegas offices. So I lead a team of financial advisors where they help clients in investing, preserving, and ultimately passing on their family financial wealth. So I am really happy to be here, and I'll be moderating, and Alex will be presenting to you today. So today we'll be going over spending smart. And I know last week you guys had a class. If anyone has anything to add right now, if there's any questions, please let me know. And aside from that, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and get started with the video. So what we're starting with first is the value of money.
Yeah.
No, I don't see the video.
Oh.
There you go. We see it now.
When I first started working, I used to say, the only thing I like better than making money is spending it. Now I realize I don't actually love spending money. I like getting the most I possibly can for the money I make. I like the value I get for my money, whether it's clothes or computers. If I shop smart, I can get things that are worth it, things I really use and enjoy. We'll show you how to make the most out of your money by shopping the smart way.
All right, Alex.
Yes, so with Danica's story and spending smart, we see here that Danica is wanting to pay for things in the right order when it comes to her monthly income and her covering her needs. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll set aside the need for our expenses like groceries and bus fare, really just understanding the order of how, when you're getting your paycheck, what is the order of how you should be diversifying your funds. So with step one, we know that you should be paying your monthly bills. Paying your monthly bills, there are very good potentials that if you are paying late, right, we want to not incur things like late fees or losing of the possessions of, items that you have perhaps purchased on credit. Step two would be you setting aside the money that you will need on a weekly and actually day-to-day expenses. So when we think about those day-to-day expenses, what are some of those things that we would think about could be our day-to-day expenses? Things such as groceries and bus fare for some, gas. Step three, putting aside money into your savings account. A lot of the times people always say, I can't save, I don't have enough money to save. And so when we really take a look at our savings, and then you look at the items that you are purchasing and you say, well, I really need this, or I really want that. Really understanding the difference between a need and a want is something that is really important, because when you need something, it may not be exactly as important as wanting it, right? So step four would be setting aside money for those larger expenses. So if you know that you have large purchases that are coming up and you've been notified of that in advance, some of the best things that you can do is to learn how to set that money aside. Putting that money aside, you will know about the large expenses beforehand. So things such as car repairs or appliances, these are the types of things that you can start to put your money aside for. One of the best things is that although you may not anticipate for these purchases to be large at that time, we know that life happens, right, at the end of the day. Step five, set aside money for your major future goals, okay? So this would be things such as purchasing a home, college education, a new car, as well as travel. Step six is going to be, if you begin to earn more, increase the amount as much as you can. So if you are working in a job role where you get things such as bonuses or different stipends, merit increases, learning how to actually add those additional increases into your savings plan is something that is really important for your future. So in Danica's story, we know that she wanted to save. So we see that in step three, before she did anything else, she knew that she was going to pay her bills, which really kind of brings everything to a full circle on what I was explaining about the steps and what it looks like when it comes to actually saving money.
All right. And Alex, and let me know, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So when I think about when I was in high school, so right now it's April, it probably like some big things would be maybe graduation. So there's some people that are probably thinking about graduation, making sure that you have your graduation outfit, if you want to throw a little party, or even if it's just, graduating and then having a vacation. So
Yes.
it's just basically figuring out, what's most important, what's the most important to you right now? As Alex mentioned, first of all, getting to school, whether it's gas money for your car, or if you have to get a bus ticket, and of course you have to have lunch and your weekends with your friends. And then of course, like I said, you may have prom coming up, you may have graduation coming up. So these are all the things that you have to kind of start thinking of, what do I need to spend money on? So I'm gonna go ahead and go on with the next video. And then after this one, I'll see if Mr. Rayford wants to add something.
Okie dokie.
Oh. Okay, so this is where it says, Danica wants to pay for things that are in the right order so that her monthly income covers her needs. And I believe Alex, you already went over this.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and go to the next one. And let's see, before I do anything else, I'm going to pay my bills. That was the right answer, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Correct. Awesome. Raphael's cell phone bill was out of control. Raphael needs to sign up with a new cell phone provider. He wants to reduce his cell phone expense and avoid the surprise of any other huge bills. Raphael is trying to decide what to do. Which do you think is the correct answer? I'm going to look at how many minutes and messages I've been using, compare companies and plans online, and read a contract before I sign. Number 2, I'm going to sign up for the best new customer deal I can find. Those are always the cheapest. Or number 3, and Alex, you're gonna give me the answer. It's just to confuse, It's just confusing to compare companies and plans. I'm going to ask one experienced salesperson. If I trust them, I don't need to read the contract.
So what we said is, what do we think? So when we think about these answers, and I know that some people could probably interpret that there would be multiple answers that could be correct. So when we are thinking about our bills, one of my favorite things to think about is priority. How are you prioritizing, right? So when we look at those answers and we see which priority would be, we're looking at how many minutes and messages is that very important, right? I've been using and comparing those companies and plans online and reading those contracts before we sign. A lot of the times in life, so would be the first option. So if you did choose correctly, you always want to make sure that you are reading those contracts. And if you don't trust it, then obviously you wouldn't go with that contract. So I would believe that option A would be correct, because we always want to make sure we're reading those contracts right before we're signing up for anything.
Correct.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. And then here we just have some smart shopping tips, being at the store, resisting to impulse buy. Also, when you're food shopping, I think most of you should know, but never go grocery shopping hungry, because you will buy the whole store. Credit card tips. Use your credit card to purchase larger lasting items. Limit the number of credit cards you have. So if you have credit cards, you don't want to just go to the, spend it for something for like $2.99. Make sure you're using your credit cards for larger purchases, that you have a plan on paying them back.
And I'll take the cell phone tip. So just basically, that we were just speaking about that last scenario. So for those cell phone tips, when you're shopping, so you're going to want to make sure that you shop for a package deal. You want to watch out for those high text messaging and web access charges, making sure that you are reading the contract before you sign. Ask questions, make sure you understand all the features, all the fees, and keep those things in mind while you're actually using your cell phone. Paying your bill on time and in full, okay? Taking advantage of discounts. So you may be eligible for discounts if you have a valid student or military ID or other organization memberships. Research the benefits and ask stores what cards they honor for discounts. Some of them for groceries, drug stores offer savings cards for customers. Some stores and businesses offering their employees a special discount on merchandise. You might consider getting a seasonal store where you plan to do your holiday shopping, for example.
Yes.
Yes. And then we
And
have,
I just want to
oh, go ahead.
add in there, as far as like the cell phone tips, just to keep this real and realistic. If you think about it, like nowadays, there's always family plans. So let's say for some reason you're not in a family plan, you know, if you do, you know, you can talk to your parents about making sure that you're added to their plan, or if you have siblings that you trust, you know, make sure that you do a family plan. But there's different ways to make, you know, to save money on cell phones. But if you have your own cell phone, your own plan, it may be more expensive than if you had like a family plan. So whether it's your grandma, your auntie, or someone, see if there's a way that you can save money by maybe being added to their plan. And if you have a job, you can offer to give them some money towards it. And as Alex was mentioning, as taking advantage of discounts, one thing that I think about now is with the gas prices being so expensive,
Yeah.
some gas stations have like little cards. I think Shell Station or somebody has it.
No.
And I never do it. I'm like, no, it's fine. But now I'm thinking like, maybe I should. I mean, I could save 1 cent for a gallon, but maybe it'll be worth it. I definitely do it at the grocery store. You know, I had the membership, but anything that you spend a lot of money on, or you go, any restaurants you go to often, definitely figure out how you can save. And then those little bits of, those little things will add up in the long run.
Actually, and so I want to add to that, and it's interesting that you use the Shell, for example. They happen to be one of my favorite gas stations, to add to your point, because even if it's something, you know, and you're not even needing gas and you're running in there for a snack, you may be on your way to school, on your way to work, you actually utilizing that membership and just purchasing other items inside of the gas station, you're incurring points that you can actually still use towards your gas. And, you know, to Ninja's point, you know, I was one of those people like, oh, I don't need it, until I actually said, you know what, this is something that makes sense. And in the days and time that we're living in right now, I feel like any to every penny that we can save is absolutely critical for our checking and savings account.
Well, if I can add to that, Alexander and Vanessa, be a student of your money. Credit cards have high credit card rates, So if you're not going to pay that credit card at the end of the month, you're utilizing Shell, Mobile, Texaco, you're using their money. And I don't know what the rates are on those cards, but I'm assuming it's between 15 and 22%. So if they're giving you a 1% discount, you do the math, 1% minus 22, you're still paying 21%. So calculate what you're going to spend, assess the savings, but if you're not going to pay it off at the end of the month, you've got to figure. One of the good things about the gas credit cards is convenient.
Yeah.
You're paying cash every time you fill up, so pay that off at the end of the month, and you're good to go. That's my suggestion when you're looking at credit cards. Thanks.
Yeah, Mr. Rayford, I'm glad you brought that up just so I could clarify. You're right, because having a credit card versus having a awards card is going to be two different things. So there's going to be a lot of temptation to get credit cards for specific stores. So definitely always be very careful in spending that money. Some places have rewards cards. So with those reward cards where you can, you know, for every time you're spending your money, you can get a few cents. Those are really good things to consider signing up for. But credit cards, absolutely be careful. And if you do have it, make sure you have the money to pay off your credit cards every month. Thank you for that. Thanks for that clarification.
And another thing to understand regarding interest Credit cards are usually high in interest because people don't pay back. And because people don't pay back, credit cards got to absorb who doesn't pay them back. So they pass it on to the consumer. And understand, and again, I don't know all the trickle down rates, but the federal government charges banks about a quarter point. The banks charge us about 4%, and credit cards are charging 22%. That's a big gap. And one of the questions of why is there such a big gap between what the banks charge us and credit card? Because people don't pay back.
Exactly. And just to add to that point, and with me being in the position of working at the bank so early and then transitioning through, my career, we don't want, to perhaps shy you away, or to make you afraid for credit, but more so understanding that the ideal goal here is that we, of course, spending money is fun, but the most important thing is getting the most you possibly can from what it is that you're spending your money on, okay? So when you are using these credit cards, the number one rule is we're not going to spend more than what we have, okay? So if anything, and you are interested in credit cards, finding that card, going back to what we were speaking about earlier in the lesson that discussed about shopping, we use the example for the cell phones. It would be the same exact thing for if you are interested in a credit card, reading those terms and conditions, understanding what are those introductory rates, because for example, you could have a credit card that is 0% for X amount of time. You understanding that after that time expires, yes, that is when that interest rate sets in. So making sure that you have that plan set in place. So if you're going to make that large purchase, that you have already had that one-page summary, however you want to do it, that you have it to where you know that you will be able to pay off that credit card within that statement cycle, number one, or if you have an introductory rate, depending on that time frame that you're paying it off before your 0% could expire on the card. So I just wanted to add that piece.
Perfect, thank you. Okay. Uh-oh. I just want to check just to make sure I'm not missing anything.
I think we had a couple up before. There might have been, I think, one more, being a savvy shopper.
So there. Oh, there we go. So we kind of went over this. We're making major purchases. Every buys, basically you want to do is consider your needs, check your budget, research first, comparison shop, and shop for value.
So considering the need, asking yourself, this is so interesting that this came up because I just spoke about that earlier in the conversation. Understanding the need versus a want. Understand this question. Ask yourself this: is this item something you want or you truly need? Ask yourself what needs you're trying to fill by making this purchase.
Check your budget.
Decide how much you can spend on this purchase and still cover your other expenses. Watch for sales and special offers. Depending on the item in the store, you may be able to negotiate the price. And just to add a little tip to that, things like department stores, Best Buy, Target, Walmart, if there's a specific item and you know that this item is available at all three of these stores, a lot of these stores now do things called price match. So for example, if you see something at Target and let's say that the Target is further away from a Best Buy, you could bring that Target ad into the Best Buy and they may match it. I'm not, saying 100% because I'm not sure exactly what their program, but I'm telling you that it doesn't hurt to ask, because remember, everyone's number one goal is how can they win you as a client? How can they win you as a customer? So they want your business. And if it's a couple of bucks, normally 9 times out of 10, from my experience, they're willing to go ahead and do that price match for you. So just a little tip, and while we're talking about saving money and discounts.
Yes. And Alexander, another thing too is consider where you're getting items from. So for example, I always tell my friends, like, people always want to get workout. Every time there's a new fad and there's some new workout equipment, people always want to go out and buy, and it's like really expensive. And I always say, no, let all your friends buy it. And then they're never going to use it because nobody really works out. So then you could just buy it off of them for half the price, or actually just do like I do. I just say, can I borrow your workout equipment? And then they'll say, sure. And then they'll never ask for it because they never used it anyways. So with different things, whether it's like clothes or different things, if you have a friend that's a shopaholic anyways, and they're always just shopping, just borrow their clothes. Just don't always think like that you have to spend your own money. Leverage other people, leverage your resources, so that way you can still have everything that you want, but you can just, leverage other people. I don't know, that's the best way I can say.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, research.
For sure.
Research
so with
first.
research first, you're going to want to inspect and try before you buy. Research product claims, ask others for advice, determine when and how and where to buy the item to get the most for your money. Check warranties very carefully. That's something that I want to expand on, because a lot of the times you will have situations where department stores or different companies will try to sell extended warranties. And so you really want to make sure before you're purchasing extended warranties, asking yourself, does this make sense? So if this item is covered already for 3 years and they're wanting to offer you, an extended warranty, before you pay however extra additional for that extended warranty, asking yourself, how much is this going to cost me in the long run? If this item that I'm purchasing, especially something like a big purchase item, like say, for example, like a TV, right? Looking at that extended warranty, because if you've already spent, for example, let's say $700, right? That's a lot of your money, hard-earned money that's spent, and the warranty is only good for 2 years. Well, I'm sure you want to use your TV for more than 2 years. Asking yourself, is that extended warranty worth purchasing at that time, versus if my TV, something happens to it, now am I going to have the money to pay for those repairs? So that's what we're saying, and giving a really good example about doing your research first when it comes to warranties. Does anyone else have anything to share for warranties? I just had to add like that little piece.
No, that's good.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so Alexander, one thing I do want to add, something that I wish I would have known when I first started working in the, in the business, it just started my career, is the GW. You heard about the GW, Alex?
No.
The Goodwill.
Oh, the Goodwill. Okay. Yes. Yeah, I know the Goodwill acronym.
I wish.
Oh,
it's like Target. Okay, so when I first started working in the financial services industry, I had to wear suits or slacks and nice blouses, and I really didn't have a lot of money. I really wish someone would have, and I think I knew about the GW years ago, but I was young and I was like, I'm not going there. Yeah. But as you all start your careers, it doesn't even matter if you just need like black slacks to work at a restaurant or anything. The GW is a great place to get the best bang for your money. There's a lot of, just remember that. You go to the Goodwill, they have a lot of different clothes if you need a business suit. And then just go to a few of them. Maybe Saturday or so, I just go in there, pop in, see what's going on. And I still go to the GW, okay? Remember, it's the GW. Just like
And they thoroughly,
Target,
yes,
but
exactly. And they make sure they thoroughly inspect those items so that you don't have to worry about getting something that, you know, is like, oh man, another you know, so I absolutely co-sign that. Very good.
all right, I just had to share that because I wish I would have known.
So
All right.
comparison shop. It's almost like I'm talking ahead of myself today, guys. Like it's coming out before even the lesson. So back to the comparison shop. So we know that shop around by internet to save you some time, effort, and transportation costs. Compare ads in newspapers and catalogs. Call 3 stores to compare prices, models, and return policies. That is one of the biggest ones. I wish we could highlight that one in bold, the last statement of return policies, because I can't tell you how many times I've probably thrown a receipt away and something's happened, but a lot of stores are more modernized now and they're getting better with it, but it's always very, very good to understand what the return policy is, because sometimes people are under the impression that once they purchase an item and they want to return it, that they're going to get their money back. And you have to be careful with that, because there are some stores who have written within their own policies that their return policy means that you can only get store credit, which means you got to come back and shop with them. You may not always get your money back. So understanding that return policy, that's just an example I could think of off of the top of my head as to why it's important to understand that return policy in the event that you were anticipating that you could get your cash back, when really they're just like, yeah, you can return it, but you got to come back here and shop to use the credit.
yes. And when I think of this, I think about my daughter and all the online shopping that she does, that people do today. I'm one of those boring people that still goes to the store to shop. Like I like to touch my things, but my daughter and my sister, everybody shops online. So it's really important just to know, like, when you're buying things online, do you need to return it back online, or can you go to the store to return it? How long will it take if something doesn't work out? So definitely be aware. Hi, Alvin. Thanks for joining us today. All right.
All right, and now
Value.
shop for value. So remember, your goal is best overall value, not just the lowest price. You look for features and quality you want, good customer service, a fair price, and a flexible return policy. So you get what you pay for. Has everyone heard that statement before? You get what you pay for. This can come into play when you may have different items where they could be in comparison, and one may be, you know, a lot cheaper, but you have to ask yourself, how durable is this product? How soon am I going to have to replace this? So yes, I may have paid like a lower price for it, but is the quality still going to be the same? So this goes back to exactly what we've been talking about today, you guys, in this lesson about doing your research, understanding what is entailed in, again, the return policy, whether it's a fair price or not, making sure we gave the example of you at least searching 3 different stores of choice that you know could have that item, right? And then you making that educated decision on which store that you are going to actually make that. I also wanted to talk about the customer service. With me working in the traditional branches for so long and understanding that, of course, we have competitors, one of the biggest things that, you know, I always hear is that, you know, it doesn't matter about, you know, the product, but also the people. How do you feel when you are going, you guys, and you're making these purchases? Remember, you're spending your hard-earned work money, right? You want to make sure that you're shopping and you're doing this at establishments that are not just looking at you as a sale or another, oh, this is just another transaction, right? How is this customer service? How are the employees interacting with you? These are the type of things that make a customer want to come back. So I always challenge people, think of that one place that just treats you so well and you're willing to pass competitors or even maybe the same location of that store, all because of the customer service. I just wanted to add that piece.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. I always tell my daughter that I like to go to the same places all the time, because once they know you, they treat you pretty well.
Exactly.
Okay, so now we have smart card. Alex, the only thing is, okay, I have the questions. I just thought maybe I was supposed to have a video beforehand, but maybe not.
Thought, but we can answer that, right?
So here the question is, and I just want to say hello to Alvin. And Alvin, we're going to talk about buying a car and smart car buying. I don't know if you can unmute there. Do you have a car already, or are you planning on purchasing a car in the future? Would you let us know?
Yeah, I think I am planning on it.
You planning on buying a car in the future?
Yeah.
What kind of car are you thinking about purchasing? Do you know yet?
Probably like I don't know, a Nissan,
A Nissan?
like Altima or something like that.
Nice.
Very good.
And let me just ask you, let me just ask you this. Have you started saving towards it yet?
Kinda.
Good. And do you have a budget for your car?
Like how much I don't want to spend.
I love it. He said, how much I don't want to spend. So I mean, that's about right. So basically, when you're thinking about a budget, it's kind of how much are you willing to spend? But I love how you said it, because I mean, it's the same difference. But yeah, do you already have a budget on how much you're willing to spend for your car?
Not really.
Not really? Okay,
So
no worries.
Alvin, I want to actually chime in and ask you, so have you begun doing your research on the different types of models and cars and, knowing the prices?
Yeah, I've been looking, I haven't been super, looking at it super hard, but I've been looking at it when I do, just looking at different cars and seeing the different prices for it. Yeah.
Very good. So
Okay.
yeah.
Let me chime in on that if you don't mind.
Of course.
Alvin, United States consumer is one of the is the largest consumer in the world. So that's one of the things you need to understand. And there are two things that we purchase and we get very emotional on, and that's buying a house and buying a car. One of the things that I tell friends and family is, what do you, as Alexander said, what do you need? Do you need to get from point A to point B? Or do you want to go from point A to point B looking very fashionable, looking very cute? And that is a big factor on how much you're gonna have to spend based on what you need and what you want. So try to take the emotion out and stay within your budget and get what you need, so you have money to do other things. So, and again, if you could afford an expensive car like Shaquille O'Neal, but more power to you. But those individuals' money is making more money than most people. Their money is working for them. So if you gotta work 9 to 5 for your money, be frugal with your money and see, as Mr. Alexander said, what is my want versus what is my need? Thank you.
Absolutely. And Alvin, I want to ask you, so, and this is just, there's no yes or right answer, but what other costs, just off of the top of your head, can you think of that you will also need to factor into your monthly budget or your spending plan when it comes to purchasing this car? Because we know that, of course, you're going to need the money to buy the car, but what do you think else would be some other expenses that come with owning a car?
Definitely gas.
Very good.
And then you also have to, like, not every month, but eventually you're gonna have to go and get your oil checked.
Repairs.
Yeah,
There's
sure
one important one I'm looking for, because you need this in order to actually drive the car legally.
You need registration, right?
Very good. Registration, you've got your registration fees. So that would go into, Alvin, very good. That falls into the taxes and fees, but there's one more thing that you must factor into every month while owning a car. And if you don't know, that's okay. I can just tell me you don't know, and I'll help you out.
And I'll give you a hint. It helps you in case you have a car accident.
Oh, insurance.
There you go. That's what I was looking for. Car insurance. Okay. So a part of your research, I know that you said you have been, doing the research. I love that you already have your model and make. What I challenge you to do now is to also start to looking into insurance companies, right? And seeing, what those rates are. If you're living with your family, I can just share with you, when I was in high school and, I wanted my car and I just wanted to do everything by myself, I just didn't realize how, expensive car insurance can be if you are trying to do it just on your own. So that's just something, I wanted to share with you as well too, is to look into those discounts, family, pricing. We talked earlier with the cell phones and, going on family member, pricing plans just to help out. You definitely want to ask for those student discounts. A lot of insurance companies do offer, very good programs for students. So while you are creating your budget, I just want to, give you another nice little jewel that you can have in your box of things while you're doing your research and looking for that car insurance, because it's definitely something that is very necessary for you to have when you're owning your car.
All right, so let's go on with the lesson plan. So should Megan buy a car? Megan's new job starts in 3 weeks. She's trying to figure out the best way to commute that's convenient but economical too. Megan's thoughts. Then read Megan's thoughts and then choose the best answer. So anyone can give me the answer, anyone on the call. So the first one, now that I have a full-time job, I should invest in a new car. I'll get to work on time and do my errands faster. Plus I can always, plus I can go away on weekends. Number 2, I'll try public transportation first, then ask around the office about ride sharing. Maybe I won't even need a car. And number 3, I think I'll buy a really inexpensive car that will give me all 3 things I want: convenience, flexibility, and low cost. So what do you think the answer is? Anyone? Okay.
Okay, my answer is I'm going to try public transportation.
Okay, let's try that. Correct. There it goes. Megan's best choice is to try public transportation first and ask around at the office about ride sharing. Why? She may find that she can get on just fine without needing a car. To mention help the environment. No, depending on the state, some car rental companies will not rent a young customer or charge much higher rates. Do some research and shop around if you can. Walk or bike, you'll save money, get free exercise, and help reduce traffic and pollution. If you can walk or bike, you'll save money, get free exercise, and help reduce traffic and pollution. All right, man, I'm getting older and older. I'm at the age where I gotta take off my glasses to read the.
That's
font.
okay. I'll help. That's what we are here for. I'll help you out. I just wanted to add some of those key points to that for Megan as well. So, I know that some of the answers may have been like, well, why isn't this one or that one? But understand that by her choosing this, she may not always be able to travel exactly where, when and how quickly she wants to, right, with that public transportation, but she is avoiding a major expense. And then on top of that, think about the cost of the down payment, right? Her monthly loan payments, if she was to secure, or to get the car financed. And then we also talked about, the insurance. So that's something that you do, Alvin, while you're looking for the car, you'll ask yourself, do I want a new car or do I want an older car? So that's something to factor into as well.
Okay, I think we have a short video next, so let's see.
If you're one of the millions of people who decide to get a car, the main thing is just be realistic about what it's going to cost you. When I owned a car a few years ago, it was definitely fun, but a major responsibility too, and a major expense.
You know what? I'm right there with you. It's not just the cost of the car. It's all the extra expenses that come with it. Gas, parking, maintenance, repairs, insurance, taxes, fees. I mean, the list goes on. And while you're paying all this money, the value of your car is going down the more you put miles on it.
Exactly. So that's why our advice is to research it, think it through, and take the process step by step.
All right. Something I wanted to mention earlier is my first car, Alvin, was what we call in St. Louis. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, what we call the hoopty. So hoopty just means it's a really, really old car. I think back then, so this was probably 25 years ago. This was back in 1997-ish. Aging myself here. But anyways, I paid like $2,000. So I don't know what the cheap cars are today, maybe 6,000. But I mean, it was gold. It was an Oldsmobile, something, Alero. It was old. But I know, but the thing is, I also didn't save money because I was in college. So I didn't save money. So my mom gave me 2,000 and I went to some little lot and I just bought a car. But my sister, she saved some money. She got the 2,000 from my mom, and then she was working and she saved another 2,000. So she went and bought a $4,000 car. And her car lasted longer than my little $2,000 car. But it worked out for me. But that's just something I wanted to add in there. Yes. Go ahead, Alex.
Now, I was gonna say to Daryl's point about, it's like kind of an ego thing, like, oh, I don't want to, I want my first car to be, and then once you're hit with, oh my gosh, your insurance on top of your payment, on top of everything else, reality kind of checks in and you have to humble yourself. My first car was actually passed down from my brother. It was a 2-door Cadillac Eldorado, and I rocked that out for my junior year. And while I was trying to secure my first car just by myself in my name, it was a 2-door Chevy Cobalt. And so I went to the dealership, and exactly to Cynthia's point, I had to create that budget plan. I was working 2 jobs at that time. And so I really had to figure out exactly the new versus the used. And as a banker, I can tell you that typically when you're wanting to do finance, a lot of financial institutions, they do like favor the new cars over the used cars, it seems like, with the loan, at least from my history back when I was 18, when I was shopping around. I couldn't understand why it seemed a little backwards that they would approve me for a brand new car versus a used car, because I believe the used car had like more liability, if I can remember correctly.
All right. Before we go on, because we've been doing a lot of, have any questions? Add.
I want to add to what Alvin was saying earlier about when he was young. Alvin, you got to realize that everybody on this video was young once upon a time, and we did not forget where we came from. So understand, we were not born curmudgeons. We were insurance, Alvin. My father did to me and I did to my kids is sit down and talk to your parents. I don't know what their financial situation was, but I know if I paid car insurance when I was a youth, it would have been like $2,500 to $4,000 a year. So my dad said, look, I'll put you on my insurance, but you got to pay the difference between me and your mom's insurance and adding you onto the insurance. And I did that for about 2-3 years and it worked out well. The issue with that is my father had zero tolerance. I had to make sure that that money was on the counter every month as we agreed. I did the same thing for my kids. And you have a choice. You could either pay the $4,000 and you could divide that by 12, or you could pay the difference between your parents' insurance and adding you to their insurance. So it's just another financial consideration, but don't take advantage of your parents.
Mr. Rayford, you done touched my heart right there. You just don't even understand. A senior in college, and I pay for her car insurance, her cell phone bill, and medical insurance. But those were facts you really said there, because with certain things that we're dealing with, it makes me let's keep it real. So some of the things that we're dealing with makes me wonder if I will continue to pay for certain things. Or yes, and it's a real situation as a parent, because it's kind of like if I'm paying your car insurance and you're supposed to pay me at a certain day on the month and you're not, in the future, I may just boot you off. I love you, kid, but I may just take you off my insurance. And then you have to pay your own insurance and you figure it all out. So it's really important to be respectful of your parents, or like I said, auntie, your grandma, whoever it is. If they're helping you out and you get on their cell phone plan, or they add you to their car insurance or Netflix or whatever it is, Hulu, just make sure that you're paying them on time, so that way you also benefit and you all could save more money. It's very important. Thanks for sharing that.
Yep.
Okay, I know we get into the top of the hour here. So points to consider, I'm going to go through these and then we'll go over to the next part, which is renting an apartment. So points to consider is your needs, consider the value, loan budget. And then these larger topics I just listed. Okay. And let me, I went all the way down. Oh, here we go. Sorry. Here we talks about new versus used. Alex, I'll give it back to you.
Yeah, so we have the new versus used, and So we want to remember that one of the most important things when we're discussing the new versus used is remembering that all cars have a depreciation value, which Alvin means they go down in value over time. So whatever the price of the MSRP of the car at the time of the purchase, the value of the new car can drop hundreds or even thousands of dollars the day you drive it off the car dealer's lot. Okay, so your initial cost for a used car will be less, but checking its mechanical condition will be especially important. And then this kind of brings me to considering the value. So referencing great sources, things like Kelley Blue Book, Edmunds can help you determine the value of a vehicle. There's some features such as, I know you said you wanted a Nissan. I know they have, you know, the options where you can have like the sunroof, you might want like leather seats, may add those kind of things to the car's resale value. So keeping that in mind. Safety features are huge as well. They're typically not very expensive for the benefits they offer, but you know, it might not add much value to the resale value. Visit websites such as autotrader.com or vhix.com to compare the models and the features. You want to talk with the loan officer to get more info about the car's value. Okay, and here we have, it looks like, are you a smart car shopper? So as you start the car buying process, consider the helpful tips. Shop for your car loan before you shop for your car. Try to get pre-approved for your loan. Decide on your top price with monthly payments you can afford. Never sign a contract without any, never sign a contract with any blank spaces. You want to make sure that you avoid mistakes such as stay firm about the exact make, model, year, and color that you want. Purchase all dealer options such as undercoating, fabric protection, and paint sealant. Once you've made the deal, never cancel it. A special note is a pre-approval is a written commitment from a lender that confirms the price of a car you can purchase. It lets you and others see in writing that you qualify for a specific car loan. And I'm going to just pause there and just add a little insight to that is you have more buying power when you're able, Alvin, to get an approval from a bank before you actually go to the car dealership. Not only does it give you buying power, but I can tell you right now, it will save you hours of time at the dealership, because most of the time spent at the dealership is then wanting to negotiate the price with you and then also trying to find a bank, the car finance manager. That's one of the job roles at a dealership where their job is literally just to go and look at all of these different lenders that may be able to or are willing to give you the loan. And so it's just a lot more of a process for you to just go to one source, try to secure your pre-approval letter there first, rather than you going to the dealership and then having them run your credit and send it to this bank and send it to this bank and send it to this bank, just to scramble to see who is willing to go ahead and give you that loan. And we can continue in case, or in case anybody else has anything to add to that. But I thought I would just put that out there, especially because you are right in that prime time of deciding to purchase your car. So what is the best choice? So we have a scenario here. It says that Carl has his own landscaping business and plans to get a pickup truck. He's been considering a brand new one, but the same dealer has used one in a good condition with low miles. he has enough cash to buy the used one, and paying some of his bills late for a few months and delay in buying new plants. 3 years from now, he'd like to sell the truck to his little brother, who will be turning 16. Now, given his situation, which one of the 3 possible options do you think is best for him? We have either buy the used truck for cash and save the fees and interest expense of a loan, make a down payment for the used truck and get a loan for the rest, or lease the new truck. So anyone can answer.
I think maybe lease it.
Did you say lease?
He said lease.
Yeah.
Let's try lease and see what we get.
New truck? Okay,
Well,
so it says no. So we have either make a down payment for the used truck and get a loan for the rest, or buy the used truck for cash and save the fees and interest to expense the loan. So
Well, the
which one do you
check
think
mark
is the
is right
most
there.
frugal option?
Yeah.
Oh, there it goes. Make a down payment. Sorry, y'all. I thought it was gonna give us another option. So here what it says is, actually, there's a better choice. Carl says, I don't know if I did the right thing. The down payment was small and the maintenance costs are included in the lease agreements. But I think I'll end up paying extra because of the number of miles I drive. And when the lease is up, I won't own the truck. I'll have to buy it from the dealer if I want to sell it to my brother. Leasing may enable Carl to drive a brand new truck for not much money upfront, but when all factors are considered, leasing is frequently more expensive than making a loan payments and buying a vehicle. Monthly lease payments may be lower or higher than a loan, so it's important to comparison shop.
So Alvin, does that make sense to what we said? Because I want to just gauge. I understand why you could think that leasing the new truck, but after hearing what the answer was for that one, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it. Sorry, I think it does make sense that him leasing the new truck would be like even more than him buying the used truck, and would be even more than him buying the used truck. So just making a down payment up front and then trying to get a loan for the rest would just
Right. And
be the
so,
most reasonable.
yes, very good, Alvin. What I wanted to just share with you, some of the consequences for leasing the new truck that Carl would run into is that even though the down payment was small and the maintenance costs are included in the lease agreement, something that Carl had to think about is that he may end up paying extra because of the number of miles that he drives. So something to take into consideration for leases are they do have mile restrictions for how many miles that are included in that lease agreement. And if you were to go over the miles that were, for example, let's say it was 15,000 miles that he could drive per year, but Carl ended up driving 22,000, he would have to pay for the additional mileage that he went over. So when the lease is up, he won't even own the truck, number one, and then he'll have to buy it from the dealer so that he can give it to his brother. So now it's like he's done paid way more for the truck. And, depending on how good of a brother he is, he may or may not factor those extra costs into selling when he does sell it back to his brother. I just wanted to add that part.
One of the things I want to add to that, Alvin, on this particular exercise, you guys tell me, this was a purchase for a business? Yes.
purchase
Well,
or
one of the things you gotta understand, as Mr. Alexander stated, if you go over the contract miles, you've gotta pay whatever the contract rate is. Mr. Alexander or Vanessa, do you, either one of you know on average what extra miles cost when you turn in a lease? I don't remember.
I'm gonna tell you right now, it could range anywhere from 50 cents to $1.25 I've seen on some leases, and it sounds like a small amount, but when you add,
It's a large amount. It's a large amount. I didn't know it was that high, because what I was gonna tell you, Alvin, is from a tax point, you get to take miles off your taxes if you are a business. If you don't have a business, you're not allowed to take miles off. The federal government, and again, Mr. Alexander, Mr. Tanesa may know, federal government allows you 54.5 cents per mile as a deduction. So if you're under that, you're making money. If you're over that, as Mr. Alexander stated, $1 a mile, I never heard that, you're losing money. So those are factors you need to consider too.
yes.
Thank you. Okay. So we're gonna go into the car insurance basics. And then, Alex, I don't, look, this is our first time presenting together, and I'll make sure we keep it moving along, because I know it's Saturday morning for everyone else.
Right.
We're just having fun here, though. So we're gonna keep it going.
Before we leave the topic of cars, we want to be sure to tell you about car insurance. It's critical for protecting yourself financially.
No question about it. Buying car insurance can protect you from major expenses that otherwise you couldn't afford, like repairing a car that's damaged in an accident or paying hospital bills.
Here are some basic insurance terms and concepts to get you started. But it definitely makes sense to consult with insurance professionals, consider their advice, and then comparison shop before you buy.
Okay, and I'm gonna scroll down. All right, Alex,
Yep, and
take it away.
I'll take it from here. So basic insurance terminology. When you buy insurance, you receive an insurance policy, a document that spells out exactly what it is and isn't covered. The covered items are called your benefits. The amount you pay for insurance is called the premium. When you have costs and submit bills to your insurance company, this is known as filing a claim. Your deductible is the amount you must pay towards repairs or expenses before the insurance company pays you. So who pays what? When you file a claim, typically your insurance company will pay only a portion of your costs according to what is outlined in the insurance policy. The amount of a claim that you must pay before the insurance company will pay is called the deductible. The amount you pay toward each medical bill is called the copay. How deductibles impact the premium. Typically, the higher the deductible, the less expensive the insurance premium. So it's a good strategy to get a policy with the highest deductible that you would be able to comfortably afford if you had to. This will minimize the cost of your policy. Your credit score could impact how much insurance companies charge you in premiums. To learn more, see the topic all about credit. Auto coverage types. Car insurance can include different types of insurance on one policy. For example, collision insures you against damage to your vehicle caused in an accident. Comprehensive protects you against other forms of damage to your car, such as a fire, theft, flood, and vandalism. Liability pays for injuries and property damage you cause to other people's property with your car if you're at fault. Medical payments cover medical care for you and your passengers if injured in an accident in your car. How much coverage? Ask insurance professionals to determine how much coverage you need. In terms of your vehicle itself, the amount depends on how much money you could spare to repair or replace it. The higher the value of the car, the more coverage you should consider. For other forms of insurance, you should have enough to protect your assets in case you get sued. Note, some types of auto insurance may be required to register a car in your state. Others might be optional. I do believe here in the state of Nevada, you need that to register your car.
All right. I'm gonna switch over to the renting an apartment. I think this is our last
Before we get
section
started
before
on
the
that,
next
Before we get
steps.
started on that,
Yeah.
Vanessa, I just want to add to Alvin. Alvin, remember I said that all of us were young. And one of the things that we're always looking for is inexpensive car insurance. And that's fine when you're single and you're in an apartment. But as I got older, I wound up doing, I don't know, lack of a better word, acquiring assets. And somebody had told me that, does your car insurance cover all your assets? And I was like, huh? And huh is not a good answer. Huh is not a good answer. So one of the things that I found out was if you're sued and your insurance company does not cover what you're being sued for, you're gonna have to come out of your pocket or sell your assets to pay for that damage. So I always recommend people to add their assets up as to what they could be sued for to get proper insurance. Make sure you talk to your insurance provider about that. Thank you.
Perfect. Yes. Okay, so we're gonna go now to renting in an apartment. But honestly, let me just tell you this, just live with your family for as long as you can, so you don't have to pay rent if you can, if it's possible. That could work for some of us, but not everyone, but trust me. Here we go.
Let's talk about deciding where to live. There are no right or wrong answers. Everyone's goals and circumstances, financial and otherwise, are a little different, so it's up to you to think through what works best for you, your job, your lifestyle, and your budget.
You may have a few options: living with your family, student housing, or an apartment on your own or with roommates. Someday you may buy a home of your own.
When I moved out of my family's house, the only thing I knew for sure was that housing was now a major expense. Like lots of people, it's my #1 expense.
All right, Alex.
Yeah, very good. So some of the key points that I really wanted to discuss for that is that there are no right or wrong answers when it comes to deciding where you live. Everyone's goal and circumstances, financial and otherwise, are a little different. It's up to you to think through what works best for you, your job, your lifestyle, and your budget. You may have a few options, like Tanisha said, living with your family, student housing, or an apartment on your own, or with roommates. Someday you may, buy a home of your own, but understand that housing is a major expense. For a lot of people, it's their #1 expense. Some places are generally more or less expensive to live in than others, depending on the area. And the cost of living factor is important to keep in mind when you're exploring your options for where and how you want to live. So it says, what can you afford? Checking your spending plan and use the formulas below to help evaluate your financial situation. A good general guideline is that housing should not exceed 32% of your gross salary or gross income. Your gross salary is the total amount of your paycheck before taxes and other deductions. Want to know how much you can afford to spend on rent? Use this formula. multiply your gross monthly income by 32 to find your suggested maximum rent. Do you want to know how much gross income you'll need to afford a particular apartment? Use this formula. Take the rent of the apartment you want and divide it by 32 to find your suggested gross monthly income. Remember that in addition to your monthly rent, you may have to pay for some of or of all utilities. Many landlords also require tenants to pay a security deposit. If the tenant damages the property or leaves owing rent, the landlord can use these funds to cover what the tenant owes. Consider getting renter's insurance. Even though you're a renter and don't own your apartment, this insurance may cover your costs if your belongings are damaged or stolen.
Yes, I growing up, I never really thought about renter's insurance, but once I moved to California, it was required. So I definitely absolutely had to. But when I lived in St. Louis, I didn't. And the benefit of renter's insurance, no matter where you property is stolen, damaged, then you can actually get money back. You can get some money for your property. So a lease that you can live with, follow these tips before entering into an apartment lease. If there's anything you don't understand, don't sign it, take it home and think it over. Ask the landlord if your roommates can co-sign the lease, making them equal responsible. And what that means is don't sign a lease completely by yourself and then think the other people are gonna help you pay for it. Make sure that each person has their own lease so that way you're all have to be responsible. Ask someone familiar with leases to help you understand the lawyer language and see how much notice is needed before moving out and a penalty for breaking your lease. And to avoid these mistakes, if utilities won't be covered by your rent, don't include them in your monthly spending plan. Avoid a written lease if you can make a handshake deal with the landlord instead. If you have roommates, never let them read the lease. And if the rent's affordable now, don't worry how often the landlord allowed to increase it. And those are, avoid those mistakes. Those are mistakes if you don't have people read the lease and know what's going on. And I'm just gonna add to that, even as simple as my daughter, who's 21 years old, when I have been moving around, I like for her to read the lease so she understands the rules of engagement for the neighborhood, for the house that we're in, so that we're all following the same rules. Because you never want to get kicked out because someone else did something. Go ahead, Alex or Mr. Rayford.
No, I'm good. I mean, that's smart that you let your daughter read your contracts. Yep.
All right. Let's see. I'm going to go on to the next steps. All right. This is it. This is our towards the end here. What you can start doing today. I'm going to play the video and then we'll begin.
Here's a recap of steps you can take to get the most from the money you spend.
First, take control of where your money is going. Create a spending plan to help live within your means and avoid running short.
If there's not enough money to go around, look for ways to decrease your flexible and discretionary expenses and/or increase your income.
Make it a priority to pay your bills on time. There are lots of potential penalties for paying late.
When you shop, always consider whether it's something you really need. Get creative about making trade-offs.
Before you sign any kind of contract, whether it's for cell phone service or an apartment lease, make sure you understand exactly what you're getting into.
And last but not least, spending is fun, but don't spend everything you earn. Save as much as you can. Start by building up at least 2 months of take-home pay and savings for an unexpected emergency.
Alex.
Okay. Is there, can you scroll?
More? Yep, I think there's definitely more content.
There we go. So don't forget these key points. Create your own spending plan. Always pay your bills on time. Decrease flexible and discretionary expenses. Look for ways to increase income. Consider your needs versus wants. Make trade-offs. Understand contracts before you sign them. Build an emergency fund and save as much as you can. So it looks like we have our first test question for this. So your take-home pay or net come is the amount you receive after benefits such as vacation pay and health insurance have been added. The amount you receive after taxes, insurance, or other costs have been subtracted. The total amount you earn, and then, or the amount of cash needed to fill one basketball net. Okay.
I think the net pay, or I think my take-home pay or my net pay is the amount of money I receive after benefits such as vacation pay, health and health insurance.
Correct. Awesome job.
All right, question number 2. Which of the following is a good example of making a financial trade-off? Skipping a few classes at school in order to go shopping at the mall, skipping a few dinners out in order to save for a weekend trip, skipping a few days of work in order to look for a new job, or trading your US dollars to euros.
I think skipping a few dinners out in order to save for a weekend trip is the answer.
Correct.
Very good.
All right. We're on a roll here.
Yes. And for question 3, it says, typically the higher the deductible amount, the less expensive the blank. The car, the insurance benefits, the insurance premium, or the cost of a double cheeseburger.
That's a tough one.
I'm thinking the insurance premium, typically the higher the deductible, the
Yes.
higher the less expensive, the premium. Okay, let's try.
Here we go. For 3.
All right, correct. Probably the last question.
Last question. If your
roommate,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
If your roommates co-sign your apartment lease, they are smarter than you thought they were, not responsible for any damage that may occur, equally responsible for paying moving expenses, or equally irresponsible for honoring its terms.
Okay, I think the answer is equally responsible for honoring its terms.
Let's see.
Okay, I'm gonna select that, and I'm pretty sure it's accurate. And Alex, maybe I don't know if we touched enough on explaining what that means by having your friends also co-sign. Maybe that's just one little piece we should add before we complete everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we think about anything that is a contract is binding. And so if it's 2 people and they're acknowledging, depending on whatever the terms and conditions that are aligned in that rental, application, you never want to be in a situation where, it sounds off, great in the beginning for you and your friend to move in, together, and, God forbid something happens and, they're no longer able to pay. It would be unfair to you to have to be stuck with the penalties of not only, not being able to cover the rent, but the landlords being able to, actually come and collect this debt. And that if you're not able to pay for that, can lead to evictions. And, you know, starting out at an early age, an eviction is not something that you want on your credit report when you're first starting out, you know, building your credit. That's what I
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think that it's smart now that apartments are putting two people's names on the lease, because before the only two people's names could be on the lease if you were husband and wife. But now they're actually putting two students, and that's great. But I'll tell you a little story about what happened to me in college. My second year in college, I had to move into an apartment, and I had a roommate, and she was writing her part of the rent, and her checks were bouncing, and I didn't know it. So for several months, her checks had bounced. The rental office didn't tell me, and then when they finally told me, we were like 3 months behind on her part of the rent. But because the lease was only in my name, I was responsible for paying the full amount, and they were dinging my credit. So what they were doing is that they were putting a note under my door, letting me know something was wrong, and she was taking the note and ripping it up. So I didn't know anything was wrong for several months. So as soon as I found out that she was bouncing checks, I actually evicted her from the apartment, and I decided I was no longer going to have a roommate, because it is very important to protect your credit. Because every time you have credit for an apartment, for a credit card, for a car, it all goes on your credit report. So you must make sure you pay for it on time, because if you don't, you're going to pay for it in the end. If you mess up with your apartment, you won't be able to get another apartment, and then you'll have to move somewhere else. If you mess up with your car note, when it's time for you to get the next car, your rate is going to be higher, okay? Because you messed up the first time. So take our advice. Don't mess up at all. Pay all of your bills on time, and make sure if there are multiple people responsible for a bill, that all of your names are on it. That's all I have for today.
Well, let me add,
Thank you.
let me add to Rhonda's scenario. She was the signer of the lease. But let's be clear, if you co-sign, in the case of 3 roommates, that doesn't mean that you're only responsible for rent. If any of your roommates do not pay that rent, you're responsible for that portion. Why I said that? Because my son ran into that in college, and he was like, that's not fair. But that is why landlords are adding people to the lease to spread out the risk. If the students don't pay, somebody's got to pay. So be careful when you co-sign.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and one last thing that I'll add before I give it to Alexander to close us out is the flip side of it is, if, let's just say it's you and your cousin, you know, Junebug, right? You and Junebug get an apartment together. Either you and him are on the lease together, so you're both responsible. But the other thing too is, if you don't add the person on your lease and you can afford the place because you're well below your budget, if you had any issues with this roommate, you're able to tell them to leave as well. Whereas if somebody is if you co-sign together, then you don't always have the option of having them to leave, because they're legally supposed to be there as well. So always be aware of what it is that you're doing and who you're doing it with, because if you know you can't trust this person, or if they're messy, or they don't keep a job, you don't want to put yourself in a legal binding document with them. Okay, with that being said, I just want to say thank you all. I appreciate being here with you all. And I'm going to go ahead and give it over to Alexander to close us out. And then he'll give it over to Mr. Rayford and Miss Rhonda.
All right, so you guys, thank you so much today. So I just want to just highlight, remember today's lesson. At the store, what are we going to be thinking about? You know, resisting that impulse buying, right? Asking ourselves, do we really need this product? Do I need it today? You know, what if I don't need it right now? Shopping, always making sure you having that budget in mind. When it comes to your food shopping, right? Saving money by eating at home, making shopping lists, right, for the grocery store, not going grocery shopping when we're hungry, because we know we will spend more money. Credit card tips we went over today, getting a card with low annual fees and low interest rates. Don't use a credit card if you can't afford the price, paying your credit card bill on time, and avoiding cash advances. Keeping track of expenses and your spending. Remember, that was another huge part of today's lesson. Make sure you're keeping your receipts against your statements. Check your statements and your budgets. We also talked about cell phone tips, shopping for those package deals, making sure you're asking those right questions, understanding all those features and benefits of the cell phone, and again, paying your cell phone bill on time. When we're making those big purchases, I'll close out by saying, remember, we're going to make sure that we're considering our needs, asking family and friends, trying before you buy it, right? Inspecting these products before we're purchasing, understanding the warranties, knowing the return policies, and also researching the product before we buy it. Taking advantage of those membership discounts. Many of you are students. We want to just say student, student, student everywhere you go, because you never know who will be able to offer you a student discount. And then lastly, if you are employed, asking wherever you're going to make purchases, do they have employee discounts for wherever your employer said is? And I'm going to close it out with there.
Rhonda?
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for joining us today for the Youth Economic Empowerment Club, Wells Fargo Hands-On Banking class. We are happy that you joined us. Tune in next week for our next class. We're going to be excited to present to you. Everyone, have a fantastic Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Alexander. Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having us.
You're
God bless.
welcome. Good job. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
See you next time.
All right.